Good afternoon. How's everybody?
I'm tired.
You tired?
I just had an induction ceremony for 33 National Honor Society people, and it pretty much took all day because we had practice, and then it was a lot.
Where did you induct these at?
A.L. Brown High School.
A.L. Brown.
Mm-hmm.
A.L. Brown. Yeah, I was. I'm going to have Sarah come and visit our class on Sunday, October the 2nd. When we shift to Mels 603, Sarah's going to come in.
All right.
And she's going to come in and talk to y'all about, if you want to be a school administrator, the shift you have to make, as we've talked about, from EDCI to school administration. You know, where the gaps, where the holes are, what you're going to have to work on, those kinds of things. For those of you who are serious about, thinking about making that switch or trying it or getting involved in it, she's somebody who's lived it. She was a few years ahead of y'all, and she's done very well. Obviously, a quick route to the principalship, but she has a better perspective. I mean, me and Laws, we don't know anything about curriculum, so. And he knows less than I do. That's the most insulting thing I can say about anybody. They know less than I do. And so, but Sarah will tell you the real deal. I'm excited about her coming. So I was with her Saturday, and so she's going to come and show up, and it's going to be great. Will be good. There he is.
And the first thing I hear out of your mouth is, I know, who knows less than you do?
You do. About curriculum. At least I'm married to somebody that knows. But I can always ask.
I thought you were referring to something important.
No, I told him that Sarah Morton's at
everybody.
I'm kidding. Sarah.
I'm kidding. I know that's our business.
And but Sarah's going to come on Sunday, October the 2nd, and talk to him about making the transition, about where your gaps, where your blind spots are, what you really need to work on if you want to make this transition. And I'm excited about her doing that. That's going to be great because we came through one path, so I can tell you what you're going to face or what I think you will, but Sarah can tell you what you will face because she faces it every day. But most specifically, she will tell you what you've got to do to get from where you are now to where you need to be if you want to be successful as an administrator. And that's the whole purpose. Now, all of you won't want to do that, and we get that. But we would be remiss if we didn't try to help you, make that decision. And some of you, after hearing Sarah Newell talk, will say, I'll never do that. Some of you will say, hey, that sounds like something I'd be interested in. So I'm excited about her coming. That will be great. Steve, I hope Debbie's good.
She is.
Got a good report today.
Got a good report.
That's good. Good. I'm very pleased that you were with her and not at the faculty meeting today, because I'm afraid that I would have had to talk you down or held you back, because I believe you'd have just blown a gasket today.
Well, I'll have to hear about that later on. I'm sure it doesn't take a whole lot for either one of us to blow a gasket.
No, not at all.
So how did you refrain from doing it?
Well, I had Jeff hold me.
Okay.
But no, they brought the admissions folks in, and they want grad faculty to start recruiting. Since we don't do that, they want us to start recruiting, and they want us to partner with organizations to think up new programs. And that they are open to new programs and new initiatives and want us partner and want us recruit. Well, neither one of those is true.
Well,
you want us to do the work. We've been doing that, so that wasn't true. We've been doing that, but the other thing is we know what happens when you bring them a partner. We know how that goes as well. So I refrained.
Yeah. Well, we'll have fun discussing that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody, welcome. It's good to see you all, and I know you woke up this morning and there was a good bit of emotion on each of you, for each of you, because this is the last Tuesday night for 601, and that probably, I'm sure there was some heart-wrenching thoughts there, and I can accept that. But we're going to have a good time tonight, and we're going to go through these case studies. I want to begin with this really quickly because I was reading your task threes and had to talk to a couple of you with just doing a couple of additions to it. Let me show this if I can find the right one. Well, maybe I won't find the right. Hold on a second.
It's that forethought and planning that really brings it home.
I had this thing pulled up. Thank you, Dale.
You'll never be accused of being involved in a conspiracy.
You know what? I'm gonna accept your smart aleck statement. All right, here we go. I think it's gonna be right this time. There it is. All right, everybody, in your blackboard are APSL materials. I think we talked about this at the very beginning. And this second one right here is APSL helpful hints, which is, I think for lack of a better way of putting this is, remember we talked to y'all about you are doctoral students taking a master's class. And so when Dale created this program or developed what it is now, he put together a lot of resources for the MELS students. And among them was this folder of helpful hints, which pretty much lays out for you what you can do and need to do for each of the tasks. And if you'll just click that folder and look at, now you'll be ready for task 4, which is the action plan piece predominantly. It'll tell you what needs to be in it. And my biggest concern is task 5, when you get in to, talking about the competencies, it pretty much lays that out for you too. And it'll make your life a whole lot easier if you'll just click on to that helpful hints and follow that, and it'll take you to the promised land. So that is under the APSL materials and the helpful hints. He's got some of it highlighted there. It'll take you a minute and a half to read it, and it'll guide you for what you need to do. So just wanted to share that. Many of you did that or knew to do that or knew what to do. A couple of you, we just needed you to add a couple more things. So anyway, I think we're in good shape, and but I wanted to share that with you. So anybody have any news?
Well, I have a question, Dr. Laws.
Okay.
So for task 4, so my action plan is in a certain format. Should I take my action plan out of that format and put it in that graphic organizer? Or can I, because it pretty much is the same thing, but it's not exactly like what's provided.
I think if it answers the task and the person's responsible and timelines and how it's evaluated, if it does that so that I can read it and understand it, then it does not have to be in a particular format.
Okay, thank you.
Please remember, Jessica and everybody, when the Mels group, the master's group, the postmaster's group, when they're doing this series of 6 evidences, they have to use a common graphic organizer, because guess what? In the 6th one, They have to put it all together in one plan. But since you are not doing that, as long as all the components are there, you're good. But the reason why we use a common template is we have to produce one plan at the end. That is the school improvement plan, and it has to match. It has to line up. But you don't have to do that. I said that to say this, but make sure everything's there. And I want to highlight one thing. I'm taking your time tonight. I'm sorry about that, but please know the difference between formative and summative assessment from an administrative perspective, not from a curriculum perspective. For curriculum folks, formative assessment, you measure the kids halfway through and then you measure them at the end. That'll be your summative assessment. That is not formative and summative from an administrative perspective. From an administrative perspective, formative assessment is of the adults. You check for fidelity to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Summative is of the students. How did they do? Please remember that formative assessment from an administrative perspective is a fidelity check of the adults. Are they using PLCs? Are they using this reading program? Are they using Marzano's best practices in their classroom? Are they doing those things? So that how are you going to check when you've got this action plan for student learning? How are you going to check to make sure the adults are doing it? I tell the story on myself. When I was an elementary principal a long time ago, we'd get these reading adoptions. The folks from the bus garage or from the maintenance shed would drive them out in the little green truck. They'd roll them in the building in the hand truck, take them down to the book room. We'd lock them in there. And at the end of the year, we'd take the test, and we didn't do any better than we did last year. That reading series didn't work. The whole notion was you got to go do a fidelity check. Was anybody actually using the new reading adoption? You got to go check and see. And so the notion here is formative assessment is a fidelity check to make sure that the adults are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Thank you.
All right, and one last thing, and we talked about this before, but please remember your action plan for task 4. The idea for the APSL is to enhance student learning, and that's what the S and the L are for APSL. And so don't put all your eggs in to the PLC. The PLC is just one of the tools that you're using to help with student achievement and go back to the formative assessments piece and that we're looking at. So what all are we doing, including PLCs, to enhance student learning? So don't make it all about the PLC. But with that, I've enjoyed reading it, and it is a pleasure to read your stuff. And Dr. Lamb is going to enjoy it with 603 as well. It is a great joy to read well-written material and organized, well-written material. So thank you for that. All right, let's get started. We are going to, we got 2 more cases from last week, and which would be case 12 and 14. And so let's start with case 12, which is team 2.
Dr. Laws.
Yes, ma'am.
After we finished what unfinished business from last week, I know like my case is 24, and I'm gonna be in transition being a mom again with the basketball situation. So I want to make sure that I get to present, but I don't want you to call on me when I'm like in between driving. So can I kind of go after the people who are going that should have went last week?
Yes.
Okay.
Although I'd really enjoy calling on you when you couldn't do it. That would be fun.
Or I can drop him off at your house. So either one.
Yeah, you can. We'll do it this way. This will be good. Yeah. Okay. Let's do team 2, number 12.
Okay. I'm going to be presenting case 12 for my team. Okay. Well,
well, you got there it goes.
okay. I do want to say that I did not make that video. That was Stephanie. I don't want credit for her work. So with this case, it was focused on a kid that had excessive absences. And so there was no proper documentation of why this child was absent. There was also a lack of knowledge or understanding of the reasons why there was excessive absences. The principal didn't ask why the child's absent. It was more of it just encouraging the parent to get the child to school, but not necessarily getting to the root of the issue. And then within this case, the principal tried withholding the family's access to a necessity that they needed for living. I don't think that was something that was a positive thing to do, because what happened is that he tried to withhold that necessity for welfare, and the parent ended up taking the child elsewhere. So some decisions that could be made, it could be a policy or protocol for checking in on students with attendance issues. And I know for my school, we have like our attendance policy includes with certain amount of days, 3 days, you get a phone call. Then if there's another 3 days occur, you get the social worker involved, and then the principal gets involved, and then some other staff members get involved before they take it to truancy, which really rarely ever happens once those steps are taken. And then also that information about the attendance policy is very important. And then another thing, what I thought was interesting that didn't happen was a home visit. So they said they sent papers home and notes home and tried phone calls, and none of that was happening. So I'm concerned as to why the social worker and other staff members didn't make a home visit to check in on the child and to check in on the family to see why there was so many absences. And so potential ramifications of this could be involvement of the other governmental agency outside of the school system. And if you're giving out a policy or protocol that includes like truancy getting involved, there may be some upset and fearful parents.
All right. So you went over a list of things that your school does to encourage students to come to school. And certainly, unless the student is driving age, it's and oftentimes otherwise, it's incumbent upon the parent to get the kid up and ready to come to school. So what?
I wouldn't necessarily say the list that I went over is something to encourage them to come to school. It's just saying, like, if the attendance policy or there is an excessive amount of absences, this is what will happen.
All right. And so with the case that we have here, we don't have a lot of information of things the school did, but the principal just said, I'm not going to sign this attendance form, which will have a significant impact, I guess, or could, because the parents getting some subsidized benefits by their child being enrolled in school. So what do you think about what the principal threatened to do or did until she got the phone call?
I don't think it was the right approach to the situation. I think there should have been some communication with the parent. There was a lot of encouraging going on and saying, oh, I'm going to withhold this if you don't get your kid to school. But no one really asked why the child wasn't coming to school. What was the reasoning why? Because if the parent's not answering the phone call, the parent's not responding to notes, there's got to be a deeper issue as to why that child isn't coming to school.
All right. Would anybody have played hardball like Principal O'Brien did? Nobody?
I would have just.
I don't think that's I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jessica. I'm sorry.
Well, mine's just really quick. I would just do the requirement. Like, that's all. If all the form asked for was like if the student's enrolled, then I wouldn't do anything else. I would sign the paper if that's the only requirement.
It's not an option. I mean, it's not whether she agrees or disagrees, it's not an option for her.
Aren't they doing good in your law stuff?
But attendance is also compulsory.
Okay.
It's law for North Carolina. All right, North Carolina law says children aged 7 to 16 must attend school. More than 10 days excuse absences. Alert the school principal, who then meets with the child's parents.
Sound devices in your room. Something really cool I've discovered, and I have this on my machine, is I have a decibel meter, and it
I gotta find out who's got their mic on.
Little traffic light on it.
Okay, I muted it. All right. If the parent refuses to make an effort to get the child back in the classroom, school social workers identify such situation as truancy cases. And then a school will have the parent charged for failure to comply with the school attendance while approving a truancy petition for the child. And so the law is very clear. At 10 days, it goes to the social worker and it goes to truancy court. And so the truth of the matter is you can't refuse to sign that document because that document is this child enrolled? Now, there's two things working here. One is we want the kid in school. You can't learn if you're not in school. The second thing is we'll learn in the second half of the course, and I won't belabor it tonight, is money. You only get paid for the students who attend school, not if they're on the roll. So school districts are penalized by the state for absenteeism. And so that's a part of this as well, where sometimes principals go a little overboard in trying to force attendance because their boss is on them, because on the monthly voucher for money that comes from the state, let's say the state pays $8,000 a year to educate a child that comes to the school district. They don't send all 8. They send it in 10 monthly installments, so you get 800, but they subtract the attendance, the absenteeism from that. So if you only have 95% attendance, they subtract $40 for every kid. So it gets very expensive, absenteeism. So principals sometimes will take the law in their own hands, but don't.
Dr. Lamb, is that true? Is that just a North Carolina law, or is that true in South Carolina as well? Okay, I was just, thank you.
Yeah. And also, they don't send you the money up front. You have to have fund balance on hand to fund the first month of school. And if you spend it correctly, they reimburse you that 10%. They do it in 10 monthly payments of the per pupil that you get from the state that year. And so if you spend it incorrectly, they don't reimburse it. But number 2, they subtract your absenteeism rate from that voucher. So that's why principals might do something a little bit crazy like this, but don't. Steve, you're still muted. I muted you too. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. You do that a lot.
I do. They appreciated it.
Yes. Good point. Kudos to all of you. You're exactly right with what we have as this case study. You go by the law. The law is, are they enrolled? Period. And that's what the principal was to sign. And you know, as a superintendent, I would appreciate aggressive principals, but this one's not worth being aggressive with. You do what the law says. Try to figure out other ways to get the child to come to school. And you know, as frustrating as it is, you know, we're going to have some that just aren't going to come, and parents who support that. So anyway, went at that one good. All right, let's look at 14, and that's team 3.
Sarah, are you posting? Okay. Okay, so I'm speaking for my team on this one, and the issue is quite simply how to spend $50,000 for an after-school tutoring program with 30 students who need extra help. So the principal has been given this charge and has 3 different people who come to him or her. The first one is the social worker who's advocating for students who need additional attention based on social emotional needs and advocates really hard for a program to meet these needs for students who also could benefit just by chance from having extended day at school and even opportunity maybe for an extra meal. The next teacher comes and says, you know, low-hanging fruit, we want to up our scores. That's what this is really for. So let's look at students who are the closest to being able to pass, and those are the students we should target. The third comes to him and says, as an EC teacher, we really do need to work more with these students because they are the ones who have the most need academically. So what do? So in the book, it presents the argument based on No Child Left Behind, which has been updated or replaced depending on your perspective with ESSA. So that's kind of the point that we took, was looking at both the textbook and what ESSA says really briefly. So No Child Left Behind, the impacts are potentially teacher relationships. If you don't select one of those, or if you select the wrong one from the teacher's perspective. And then, are you meeting or sacrificing students' needs? You can only facilitate a program for 30 students. Who do you choose, and what are the needs that you really focus on? Are you going to focus on scores or social emotional needs or the equity needed for students with disabilities? And this one takes the perspective of No Child Left Behind, and the reality of No Child Left Behind we all are very familiar with. And depending on the process, if you have a low performing school, you could get technical assistance from your district. If that doesn't improve, you could have a replacement of a principal or a replacement of as much as 50% of your faculty to improve scores, and finally closing down schools. So minimizing impacts, back up one, Sarah, would be identifying other resources to meet the needs of all the students in some way, or even combining resources to make the program accessible to more students or other programs accessible. So the major difference between No Child Left Behind and ESSA, although we all know that that message hasn't really filtered down maybe to all of us, and that is the removal of adequate yearly progress eliminated. And that means that there is potential for considering something other than just high stakes testing. And the district plans actually, if nobody's seen your district plan, they have to consider something other than just test scores. So you have to look at a school success or a student support factor and build that into your plan. Next. So our argument is either way. Back up one more, Sarah. The minimizing impacts is looking at other resources and or combining resources.
All right. So you're going to look for other funding streams to try to meet all the needs, but
or reaching more students.
For reaching more students, okay. But your priority with this particular pot of money is going to be what?
If it were based under No Child Left Behind, the low-hanging fruit, the students that are closest to passing.
Okay. So how did this money come about?
I don't remember it. It's because of low performing school, if I recall correctly. It's been a while since I read this.
Yeah, this was last week. So it was a grant, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's grant money. Now, Helena, I know in your role, you've had to deal with grants a couple of times.
Yeah.
What all goes in a grant?
A lot of time and data.
Okay. And is there any portion of it that says, with this money, we will?
Depending on the grant, yes. There usually are criteria for use.
So I think the first thing we've got to do, and I don't think that this case in particular specified.
Mm-mm.
So the first thing we have to do is, what did we say we would do with the grant? And we've talked about this in here before, because you have to do what you say you will do with grant money. Mm-hmm. And so that would be step one. And not that comes into play with what y'all's answer was, but we always have to remember that. If we said we were going to use it for test score improvement, then that's what we're going to use it for. We said we're going to use it for social emotional, that's what we're going to use it for. And so if once that's determined, and I guess it's conceivable that we were kind of broad in our grant application, and we had flexibility with it. That's not overly common that you can just say, give us $50,000 and we'll improve our school. Usually there's some specificity to it. But I think that then for a principal to hear these pleas for additional funding, give us the $50,000. I think it would be pretty much a foolish endeavor for the principal to make that decision on her own, given the circumstances. There needs to be, the principal has access to the grant and can say, here's what we said we were going to do. And if not, then I think you go to a team of people and say, okay, we've got to decide how we're going to divvy up this money. But I like the low hanging fruit. I think that bottom line is that as Dale will preach to you again and again, and he has already, we are judged on our student performance, whether we like it or not. And measuring social emotional needs is very difficult. Measuring a lot of other components, or even the exceptional children's population, albeit they need all the help we can give them. We're going to get judged on the performance of our school. That is going to be in the paper. That is going to be reported to the legislature. That is what we're going to get judged on. So I like the low-hanging fruit concept there. Anybody else have anything to that one? Dale, anything to that one?
Yeah, I've got two things. Generally, these grants will have an assessment component that you have to, when you write the grant, you have to say, we're going to spend this money on these kids to get this improvement in whatever area it is. And you also, at that time, when you're writing the grant, have to say, this is how we're going to assess them. So to Steve's point, it's hard to measure social, emotional, some of those kinds of things. I wouldn't get over into that. Whatever I said I was going to do and how I was going to assess it is what you've got to do. The second piece to that is I don't think I would even be in the consideration for the exceptional children. You say, Dale, boy, that sounds awfully harsh and crude and mean. Who pays for exceptional children? Is that a state or local funded program? No, that's federal. And you got to be careful about mixing money with federal money. I don't know that I would want to tackle that. That I'd probably do something wrong on that one. And so I don't think that I would want to tackle trying to supplement a federal program. Also, those kids are all on IEPs. I would have to change their IEPs if we wanted to do something additional with them. I'm not sure I'd want to tackle that. The social emotional is going to be hard to measure, to assess, and we have to turn in our assessment data with the grant. So those would be kind of eliminated for me. And I'll tell a quick story. I was on the university team from Chapel Hill. Yes, I went to Chapel Hill. You can boo me later. And we were working with a school district. I was a research associate there. And they said, we want you to prove that our summer program works. And I said, that's not what we do with data. I'll collect your data. What'd you say that you were going to do? Well, our summer program is going to improve grades, attendance, and behavior. I said, well, that's easy. We'll just see if their grades improved, if their attendance did, and they got fewer disciplinary referrals. They said, oh, no, we can't do that. That won't show any results. I said, well, but that's what you told them that you were going to do. That's what we have to do. And so, as Steve said, make sure you read the fine print. Whatever you told them you were going to do in a grant, that's what you've got to do. And there's got to be an assessment piece. Be thinking about that when you write the grant, and try not to get over into federal programs if you can help it, because the money gets a little gray, and sometimes bad things happen to you. Those are my comments. Excellent job. I agree. Low hanging fruit on this one. That's pretty easy decision.
You did a good job. All right, Shante, we're going to get you going here so you can get to the other event, and you spend time on Bobby Struck Out, don't you?
Yes, I do. You
use that. You do case 15, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Okay, we're not going to do that one tonight then. But they're prepared. They will be ready to argue with you on that one.
I'm good. I'm glad.
Yeah, but you're gonna go back to that one because
yes, I'm going to talk about the case studies each week, and then y'all will present them all at our last meeting, our last Saturday together. And our last Sunday is our Jake Sunday, but our last Saturday is when you present your case studies. But I'll have you prepped by then. But if y'all have gone through that one, we'll get to argue about it later.
So we don't need to do Bobby Struck Out tonight.
No.
Okay. That's good for our time purposes. All right, here we go, Shante.
Okay, so this case study is titled The Vision Thing. So at this school, this new principal came and the teacher morale was really low. The student achievement was not good. It was declining. The parents did not support the school. Sophisticated parents, they got waivers to have their children like transferred out to other schools, and the discipline was pretty much poor. So the teachers placed the responsibility of the school's problems on the kids and the population, and the parents did not support them. So they blamed the school stuff on the teachers. They were not understanding. They said that they were not understanding of the diverse groups and difficulties. Pretty much they were not understanding of the people that were moving into the community and accepting of them. So the principal decided to create a committee that had the staff and faculty and parents to involve them, because that was like his thing. And they wanted to, his vision, his theory was to create like a school vision, and that's focused on student achievement. So that was the whole goal. They had open discussions and they were pretty much mixed. So the staff, they were not, like the teachers were not really acceptive of that. They weren't appreciative. They were appreciative of it, but they felt that it was kind of like their previous administrator. So they didn't really trust the principal, saying like, oh, well, he's going to create this for us and give our input, because their previous administrator said that, but would just create things and go through it and make the decisions without their input. But the parents, on the other hand, they were appreciative of the principal's invitation to be a part of the vision committee. And the principal encouraged the parents to pretty much have a voice in their decision-making process. So he wanted to cultivate like a dialogue for the overall school community. And like I said, that was his philosophy in his leadership, to bridge the gap between the parents and the teachers. So the issue of the case study was there was a lack of trust between the principal and the staff due to the previous relationship and situation under the last leadership, and it was negative. And also there was no parent support, and the student achievement declined. So everybody was kind of like on islands alone instead of coming together for the student achievement. And so for me personally, what I would do about it, it was something that as a teacher, I was like real cringy kind of about it when I first started teaching. But overall, I kind of took the initiative to do it year after year. Was my principal made us establish relationships at the beginning of the school year by making phone calls to the parents and introducing ourselves and saying, hi, I'm happy to have such and such in my class, going over maybe kind of like a 5 to 10 minute phone call with everyone. It was time consuming, but it did start the school year off kind of on a positive note to build a relationship and to allow the parents to ask me questions one-on-one, and, you know, like I said, foster that community with them. The ramifications was that the parent involvement, it could just be non-existent, and they could continue to be unsupportive, which would be terrible, because when teachers don't feel like we have support at home with the parents, it's kind of like a divide. It's a total divide between the home and like the community and home and the school environment. And so the big part of it is like the lack of relationship and support. Also, another thing that I would do about it, to go back, is that I would kind of like have or host like relationship building activities with the staff as a principal. And then after that goes, after that grows, I will focus on like family community events that are fun to encourage communication and just like comfortable dialogue before I like jump into like a family reading night, because the parents will probably feel a certain type of way about coming into like a reading night. It's like a toxic environment. But if you create like fun family nights or a game night or just like a little school dance or something where you can invite the parents to come, and then it doesn't make the conversation so tough, and so it's kind of like a comfortable environment for them to converse. That's it. That's all.
Okay. So in reading this case, which I did a week ago, so I'm probably forgetting things too, that the parents that the principal talked with were receptive to being on this visioning group, right?
Correct.
And the teachers were not in favor of this visioning group. Were the teachers opposed to it because they just didn't want parents to have a voice in the vision, or were they opposed to it because they just don't want a vision?
No, they said that the previous principal, he like talked about making a shared vision plan, and it just did not work because he would just make the decisions and then share them with the teachers.
Okay, so he did. So the problem was the previous principal, not the relationship between parents and teachers.
Correct, but it was a divide between them. So it did talk about that it was a divide between them, and like the teachers put the responsibility on the kids, saying the kids don't want to learn, but they don't have a relationship with the parents, and the parents blame the teachers.
All right, so we've got history of I believe they called it a sham with how the previous principal did things, and we have history of friction between parents and teachers as who's blaming who, and so your solution is to invite parents over.
Well, before I would invite parents into like my dwelling, I have to fix the relationship with me and my staff.
So you're gonna work on that one first.
Yes, because I can't expect them to go out into the community and build relationships when I don't have a relationship with the people in my building. So I would try to like establish some type of trust in the community within my building in order for us to reflect.
Okay, how are you going to do that?
Like team building exercises, things that people hate to do. And like things that we can, because
that's exactly how you would do it, Shantae. Love to do things they hate to do.
And the reason why I say that, because I've been there, and it, like I said, if it's like toxic, then it's hard to build relationships with people. But I can say that it makes it like building relationships comes over time. It's over time. So it's not overnight, but we have to have like relationship type building type exercises going on in our building. We have to, because I have to
get. How much time are you going to give it?
Well, I can't give it the whole year because my kids are declining. So at this point, I would probably have like a school-wide, something that we all hate, professional development, relationships. And I have to change that culture because the climate is toxic. Like they don't trust me. So I would have somebody from the outside in the county that is the expert on like relationships, and like the person that the fixer of the county when they come in and fix relationships in your building, like they have to come in.
A school district has a fixer of relationship?
Well, no, I mean, they have people that will come in and do like professional development with your staff, because I've had it.
Did it work?
It did.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in. Ever since Dr. Lamb mentioned how servant leadership is probably the best approach, I'm going to have to admit that I very much agree with him. And so I think that is the way to approach this. Maybe not do the activities everyone hates, but it's about pulling through for your teachers. Again, as lead mentor, I've learned to approach them with, what can I do to help you today? Are you doing all right? Instead of, well, what do you think about this? New teachers, and probably even teachers who've been doing it for a while, they don't want to have to tell someone else what to do because they've been doing that for 90 minutes each block. They want to be like, yes, I need this, this, and this. Can you do this for me? And just pulling through, I think, would be, I think Shantae, sorry. It's been a long day. We had a bomb threat today. Shantae is on the right track, but I think it's all about how you approach it. I've been learning that here lately.
I would echo that they pay you to be the fixer.
Yeah.
Remember, you don't teach a soul. They pay you to fix these problems. Remember that pad I talked about you carry around in your pocket where you can do things for people? It's more than just the things you do. It's the symbolism of, I'm here to serve you. I'm here to help you. That's how you build that. That's how you fix those relationships. It's not always top down. What can you do for me today? It's what can I do for you? How can I help you today? Didn't we talk about that last week about, what can I do to make your day better? That's where you build that trust with your faculty. I'm not a big consultant guy in terms of bringing consultants in. You know what an expert is. That's somebody that lives more than 40 minutes away. But that I'm not a big fan of that. But I mean, you got to repair those relationships, but that's what they pay you to do.
Yeah, Shantae, I'm glad that you had a good experience with that. I would not bring in an outsider either. I think that the faculty is looking to you. That they are not trusting you. I will admit that because of previous things, but I'm not sure that any outsider can knock down that wall. You're going to have to do that as the principal. And having said that, I will also say you're exactly right. You got to repair the faculty relationship with the principal before you worry about repairing the parent teacher. And that's priority number one. And that's the story of this case. It's great that the parents are excited about what the principal's saying, but that relationship's not going to mend until the teachers see that this is the culture and it's going to be consistent. So, good job. All right, let's go to case 20. Is that right? Yeah.
Okay.
Team 2.
All right. So the summary of it, well, you know what? Let me share I'll share my screen after I do the summary so that I don't give it away. So the summary is that there's a principal who is well-versed in managing a school, and everything is running like a well-oiled machine. Attendance is high. Attendance is high for both students and teachers, and they have competent substitute teachers, even the absent teachers have emailed their lesson plan, so everything is running as it should. She sits back as the day begins, and she's thinking about how much she loves to organize and supervise things, and she's thinking about graduation and patting herself on the back for the parade, and then the superintendent calls and says, well, I've looked at your plans, but there's nothing about instructional leadership. And so she says, well, I've done all these things. How else am I going to fit all of this into my day? And so that's where she is. She's trying to figure out how she can be a better instructional leader. So I'm going to share my screen because her superintendent is expecting that to be in her goals. So the issue is that she is expected to become a better instructional leader. She's a great managerial leader. I actually had a principal like this who told me one time, and he was a great manager. He was great hiring the right people too. Like he was a really good person to hire. I mean, he could hire really good teachers, and so he got a lot of really good people on the bus, and he kind of sat back as an instructional leader, and he kind of admitted that to me one time. But and so he let the instruction happen on its own. But this Mary is kind of the same. It sounds like she's kind of in the same boat. It sounds like she has a great staff. We doesn't really say much about the staff. But as far as becoming an instructional leader, a lot the case itself mentioned a lot of these things. So she needs to learn to delegate some of the managerial tasks to like classified personnel. She needs to strengthen her distributed leadership with gauging existing talent, to quote Dr. Lamb from last week. Find the teacher expertise and use it and use it during some of these PD sessions and some of these peer things that we're going to talk about in a minute. Prioritize her tasks, like the things that she loves to do. She really needs to do that after the school day, because during the school day she needs to be visible. She needs to get more of a formative pulse of what's being said and done within the school. And when I say formative, I mean just listening to conversations, having conversations, sending the message that this is the most important thing that is happening at the school. The instruction is the most important thing that's happening. And then an awareness of what everybody's doing and their accomplishments and just being able to speak to those things. As far as PD, being aware of what the effective classroom practices look like and where the strengths and weaknesses are in her school. Peer observations are set up. They didn't say peer observations in the case itself, but they did say having I forget what the word they used for it, having more collaboration and feedback with teachers, and what they were describing basically was using PLCs to utilize data and having the peer the critical friend is what they called it, and then remain up to date on best practices for school leadership. Rely on your central office expertise when needed. So I thought that last piece of advice was interesting. Potential ramifications is staff complacency, and then of course student progress will suffer. They will not continue to grow. They might do okay in proficiency, but growth will suffer particularly.
All right. I didn't know if you were through, so.
I'm sorry. Yes, I am finished.
Okay. So with this one, you have a managerial leader who's very strong. And Stephanie, you said you worked for at least one that was very strong with managerial leadership. And I imagine you appreciated that talent very much. The superintendent has stated you need to be an instructional leader. And so this principal is now going to have to reorganize her life and at least her professional life to make sure that happens. And I like the proposal. There are other people who can do some of these managerial tasks. My question to you and your team is, if the principal is best at these other managerial things and not best at, quote, instructional leadership, would it not be the same argument that why can't she gauge the talent of her faculty and let them be the instructional leaders in the school? And she just keeps the managerial stuff. I mean, that's the same argument, isn't it?
Yeah, and well, I kind of see it. I was like just the same. If you on a smaller scale, in the classroom, the instruction is better if you have really strong classroom management, or if you have effective, let's put it this way, effective classroom management. So the instruction can happen a lot smoother and a lot better. So it's kind of the same way. I think her managerial strength is part of her strength. And I don't think that she, I mean, I think she should still continue to do those things that she's doing, but it sounds like things are already in place. It would be a matter of her just, knowing when she can delegate things. But as far as I think being an instructional leader is being able to gauge where the talent is in utilizing that that's part of being a leader of your school is knowing where the talent is in utilizing that talent.
All right, there are a couple of things that stand out to me on this one. And the first one is that she was really good at managerial stuff and organizational stuff with that, but she did a lot of it herself. That is not leadership. So it goes back to what you were talking about, engaging talent, see who can do these things. The second is we still work for people. That's part of this operation. We talk about, the bureaucratic nature of the school business or whatever. Superintendent at this point can require principals to do certain things as a part of their growth plan and as a part of their evaluation. So the superintendent says, you will do this. So she better figure out how she's going to get it done. And that's this case. She's got to figure out how she's going to get it done. The last one that I would say, and Dale and I keep referring to this because we were not instructional leaders when we were coming along, principals, or not. I think we would consider ourselves to make a priority of instruction. We were just not curricularly inclined. That said, it kind of intrigues me when you have a principal who doesn't want to do the instructional component. It's almost like, a church pastor who says, well, I really don't want to preach. I mean, that's what we do. That's a part of the job. And it's a major part of the job in preparing sermons, delivering sermons, leading the flock. And that's what the principal has to do. And she's going to do herself the favor of surrounding herself with people that can bolster her talents in the instructional arena, whether it's instructional coaches, if they're available in your district, if it's lead teachers or strong teachers on your faculty, whatever it takes to get that piece done. But the bottom line is, this is another Jones sausage piece. It is our business to make sure we have great teaching and learning at our school. It is our business. And it needs to be a part of every goal that we set. So again, beating it again, saying it to you again, this is the advantage you have. You are instructionally minded people. So it will not be hard for you to make it your priority if you are leading a school. But we need to make sure that all of us as school-based leaders make instruction our priority. Managing a school, yes. And it's critical, and we can be instructional leaders in a variety of ways, but the people need to know my priority is teaching and learning at this school, and figure it out accordingly. Dale, what you got on this one?
One of the things, I don't know if it's exactly the same, but I suspect that somewhere in your educational journey, you've done Johari's window that talks about your different selves. The part that's blind to you that you can't see. So this is one of the dumber things. I say a lot of dumb things, but you got to know what you don't know. You got to know what your blind spot is. I call it hide, H-I-D-E. We all have hides. As school administrators, places where we hide out, where we look like we're doing the job, but we're actually hiding out doing the things that we like to do in order to avoid the things we don't like to do. You know, I'm hanging out down at the gym, or I'm over with this vendor, or I'm in the lunchroom. I'm not in the classroom. I have to recognize that about myself. And I have to, as Steve said, I have to understand that I've got to be the total package. I may not be as good as instructed to somebody, but I've got to put time into that. I've got to be in those classrooms, even if that's not what I'm most prone to do or my first thought. Now, unfortunately, a lot of instructional people hide in classrooms. They don't want to deal with parents. They don't want to deal with discipline. They don't want to deal with budgets. They don't want to deal. So they go hide in the room all day. Me, I hide in the gym all day. But you've got to be self-aware is my point. And you've got to, as Steve said, you've got to make it, everything in your building's got to be a priority. You got to be a part of it. You can't just delegate, you know, something as important as instruction to somebody else, but you can't delegate the operational piece either. You have to get involved, but the first step is self-awareness. I believe that you got to identify your own hide. Where am I going to hide? And I've got to make a point not to do that. I've got to self-discipline myself not to do that. Otherwise, we never get around to those things that we don't like to do as school administrators, and you will not be successful. Thank you.
All right, good job. We're ready for 21.
All right, that's me. So when I was looking over this, and I'm going to share my screen, I thought it would be a good idea to show a clip of a principal visiting classrooms well, and then talk about what the principal that we're going to be looking at was tasked to do.
Sarah, you have to share your sound.
Can't hear it?
No.
Yeah, I think we're gonna, I was seeing if I could read the subtitles, but I don't think it's not big enough either.
How do I share sound? If I'm sharing the screen.
You're gonna have to have this video as a separate link and then minimize it like you did this other. It'll be separate from your PowerPoint. And then you'll see at the bottom that it'll allow you to share your sound.
Hold on. Well, I'll talk about it. So he goes through his day and he's actually able to work with classrooms and students, and the students know him and the teachers know him. And at the end, he talks about how much he works in the class at school. Some days are long, some days are short, but he puts that effort into it. So I don't want to do that now. All right, so the issue of the principal in our case study, Mr. Garrison, was that he's been tasked by the superintendent to be visible around the school every day. So he made some appearances, but he wasn't a big everyday person around the school. I've had a principal like that, and you think, where are they? You don't see them, so you don't feel like you're supported. So to get out of the office, he felt like, how can I do that because of all these things? Paperwork, teacher meetings, central office demands, parent meetings, student discipline. So I've got all these other things to do. So how can I do that? So he decided he would ask teachers and parents how they would recommend him getting out of the office. And so he started a consultative committee to give him some ideas. So some of those were teachers request visits to see student work. That was one idea that came up. Set an alarm. So he would actually have his secretary set an alarm for so many minutes. And when it was up, he would get up out of his chair and go visit somebody. He also had where students would leave notes to invite him to their classroom. So he would have those available. Instead of having custodial staff or somebody else deliver packages or media center deliver equipment around the school, he would do that on occasion. And then just sit and talk with kids. That was another idea that he heard. So the ramifications of that. So if he were to do the things that he put forth, it helps support his teachers. They know the issues that teachers are facing because he's there every day. He can see those issues. Take action to support discipline. And then it's kind of nip it in the bud like Barney Fife. So if he can see it sooner, then discipline can happen faster. Provide curriculum improvement so he can make suggestions for improving. Identify unsuccessful strategies. So being in the classroom, even if that's not something you like to do, but he can be that instructional leader like we were talking about. If he is continuing to spend too much time in the office, then you're seen as ineffective and unconcerned and uninvolved. So like I said, I've been there and had a principal that I felt that way about at the end of their tenure with us. So that is all.
I like that.
I visited the school, actually, the person I visited was in this class last year. And I visited the school, and it took me about a minute, it would take you about a minute to realize that the principal at that school was the very kind of person that Sarah was addressing, the principal who stayed in the principal's office. This happened to be a he, and did not mingle in the hallways or in the classrooms. He stayed in the office and got the quote paperwork done, the phone calls made, those kinds of things. It is an issue that you will have to address when you are leading a school of how do you get everything done. And here's how I would respond to a lot of it. And Sarah said, by mingling in the classrooms, by being in the hallways, by being visible, a lot of the things that take up your time as a principal who stays in your office all day are mitigated because you are meeting them head on. You are nipping it in the bud, as Sarah said. You are out there finding out what those things are. And I'm not sure that the consultative committee always had a great idea. I'm not sure that the alarm clock is necessarily a great idea. I think the idea of being visible is the ticket. And that's, a lot of that's going to depend on what school you're in. I'm reminded that, some schools have, 2 or 3,000 students. And so you just kind of, Marlene, I passed your school today. Today, it's a city in itself, going down Park Road there and looking over to the right in South Meck High School. But it's huge. And so Mr. Starnes got to figure out how he's going to be as visible as he can be. But, it's hard for 3,000 students, but most of us are blessed in being a smaller venue. And so this whole visibility thing is going to be critical. When do you get paperwork done? You just get it done. I mean, you do it when you can. But I think during the course of the school day, that visibility component is the huge thing. And as far as parents go, we all know that any parent with a concern about what's going on in school wants to talk to the principal. They do not want to see anybody else. They want to see the principal. We all know that. And how we address that as a school community of layered bureaucracy of here's who you'll see first. You know, did you talk to the teacher? Did you talk to the assistant principal? Did you talk to the guidance counselor, whoever, before you get to the principal? Again, 25 years ago, when I was a principal, I'm not saying it still works today, but it does not take long to establish the culture of, you know, if you want to see me, parent, don't come before school because I will be in the bus parking lot or the student parking lot. Don't come during lunch because I will be in the commons area. Don't come right after school because I will be in the parking lots again. Those, I'm not available. So, and they just need to understand it, and they will. They'll quickly understand that. That gets out there. And so then you figure out when you do handle those meetings and how those things are addressed. So visibility is the key. Good job on that. Dale, what you got on this one?
That's it. But again, you've got to self-discipline. You don't have to set the alarm clock, and you shouldn't go as far as one principal in CMS. He gave his office up so that he wouldn't be stuck in the office because that was his problem. You can't go that far the other way. But you've got to monitor your time and make sure that you hit those things that that are going to create the most impact. But again, you got to be self-aware. It's just self-awareness, monitoring your time.
Yeah, one of the little tricks that I learned a long time ago is I moved my office up to the very front of the school I was in, so that it was the first office you would see if you came into the office complex. And I had a back door to get out into the hallway. And the reason I did that is that people would come, and if you were in there, they would come and want to plop down and talk. And so it was, and I did not want that because it would take too much time. And so that again is that cultural component of if you're out in the hallway, everybody has a shot at you. They can talk to you, but they're not going to plop down in a chair and talk to you. Once somebody takes a seat in your office, you are stuck. And that's I don't know that I give up my office, Dale, but I'm not sure I put many chairs in it.
Well, I'll use me and Steve as a bad example. The grumbly old men, we're all upstairs in Craig, but there's a reason why all the grumbly old men are upstairs in Craig. We're not down in the bullpen, as we call it, where all the office, because they just stand around and talk. We're upstairs in our offices so nobody comes by. It's the furthest away from the bathroom, so nobody's going to come by us and plop down. But now I can tell you, I think the years that we've been there, Steve and I talk on the phone more, but we make it a point. Don't go pin somebody in their office because we don't want to be pinned in. It's habitual for us because that just was the habit that we got in as school administrators and so Steve Stone's next to me, retired superintendent, Jeff, principal next to me on the other side, Steve's down the hall, but we don't want to be downstairs where all the traffic is. Yeah, we got to go up and down the steps to go to the bathroom. The old water buffalo, we got to go about once an hour. But we'd rather do that than be down there where people take our time. It's not that we're antisocial, but you've got to know what to do to not get yourself trapped and pinned, because next thing you know, you've lost 20, 40, 60 minutes that you didn't have. Where's your day gone? Now, I know some of our colleagues do that because they're just counting clock hours. I got to put in 10 hours a week. So they're willing to stand and talk and do all that because it just passes the time. We have a different function to be there. We're there to get a certain thing done. If it takes a little time or a lot of time, and the more of the chit chat stuff, the more time it takes, we need to be moving on to do something else. You've got to get in that habit. You got, and once you get in it, it'll stick with you your whole life, maybe to your detriment as you get old like us. But we're still in that habit of, we don't go camp in people's offices. We don't want people camping in ours. We don't want to be where the traffic flow is. We all get upstairs. We hide so we can work and get things done. Now we go to all of our meetings and do all the things we're supposed to do, but we don't waste a lot of time. There's a lot of time wasted that you think is you're getting some value out of it. But the social piece, you can do that incidentally. It should not be the major function of your day, is the social piece.
All right, number 25. I think that's team 2. Shante did 24.
Hey there, Michelle and I are going to take this one on. So as last time, I'm going to present it in a very theatrical way, and Michelle's going to talk about the analysis. So we have Jim, who is a principal who's very well known for his characteristics. He is very liked with his leadership abilities. And in fact, the superintendent, Anthony Miles, is really big on Jim. But Jim has one flaw. Jim does not know how to budget correctly, okay? He has an AP, and his name is Charlie Montgomery, which is very theatrical itself. And Charlie knows how to handle the money. So Jim continues to handle, Jim continues to rely on Charlie to handle the money. And there becomes this really important meeting that comes up with having to handle budgeting. And so he's relying on Charlie. And then when it comes down to it, Charlie says, my son's gonna pitch this baseball game. I can't miss it. Sorry about it. And so Jim is livid. And we come down to, does Jim make his AP attend this budget meeting, or what happens after that? And I'm just gonna say it, Jim should have already been over that, but Michelle's going to take the lead.
So, I mean, yeah, it just kind of goes into exactly what Sarah was just saying. He has a couple of decisions. He can tell Charlie to stay and not go. And there's a whole family issue with Charlie. Charlie said he forgot to tell him. He just didn't want to disappoint him. He could ask somebody else to step in. He's had 6 weeks notice on this, or Jim could just take on the role of budgeting and scheduling, because Charlie is also the master schedule. He handles that. The ramifications, this is going to show who's really in charge of that school. We've talked about it before, and it's been said 100 times. The person in charge of the schedule
and the budget
are the people who are in charge of the school. So this is going to reveal to the superintendent, to the school community itself, that Charlie, who has been loaned out to other schools by Jim because of his prowess with budgeting, is really in charge. It also, if he forces Charlie to stay, you're now changing the dynamic of their relationship, which could negatively impact their school.
We have another case here where the principal does what the principal enjoys doing and doesn't do what the principal doesn't enjoy doing or doesn't feel efficacious in it anyway. How about Charlie? Did Charlie do anything wrong?
I think he should have been like, you're the principal, you should probably know this. And maybe, I don't know if mentor is the right word, but I think he maybe should have been like, this is what I do. I don't know. That's just my thoughts.
But Charlie also did get some benefit out of this relationship, in the sense that because he was voluntold by Jim to go work with other schools, he has gained a reputation for himself in the district. So there's been kind of a benefit for Charlie, even if Charlie should have spoken up for himself in the position that he was in.
Should Jim be upset with Charlie? Anybody think he ought to be upset with Charlie?
Jim should be upset with himself for not taking the initiative to learn those things because there at some point would be a time Charlie wouldn't be available. It just happened to be this time.
All right. Would any of you be open to, if you were Charlie, changing your mind?
As far as doing the meeting?
Going to the meeting, yeah.
I think in some ways that he could. I mean, it's his boss that could say to him, I'm your principal, I'm your supervisor, I need you with this meeting. Like I said, he could. He absolutely could. Should he? I don't think he should, but I think he could be put in a position where he could change his mind and tell his son, I'm sorry, I can't be at this thing that you're pitching, and I have to be at this meeting. He could do that.
It gets back to a case we talked at when we were in person. It's like you want to stand up for yourself, but it's like you could, in doing so, you could ruin future career possibilities for yourself. So initially I want to be like, no, you're the freaking principal, do it yourself. But in a way, I know there was a case study we talked about. Do you want to damage your reputation with a school board versus, take pride for yourself?
I think there are a couple of things to think about if you're Charlie. And this is going to impact some of you too, because you're not going to be a principal immediately. You're going to go through the layers. Charlie, this meeting was going to be in front of the board, right? I mean, we're talking about an exposure thing. And I don't think that it would surprise the board and others that Charlie was going to present it. I think they kind of knew, they knew by reputation he would be, and they knew probably they'd already been told to the superintendent or the secretary to the board that Charlie would be presenting the budget from this school. And Charlie forgot, he says, to tell the principal that he wasn't going to be there because my son's pitching in this game. So to me, it is a dangerous decision to say, I'm not going. You are going to fracture a little bit of a relationship with your principal. You're going to not show at a meeting that the board would expect you to show. And I don't want y'all to hear me saying this wrong, because family always comes first. But this is a baseball game. This is a baseball game. Now, granted, it's an all-star game, but it's a baseball game. And if your desire is to be at another level, sometimes there are sacrifices to be made. One of you is presenting from Maxwell the law of sacrifice. And administration has sacrifice. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's right. Family is family, and it should be. But this is one of those decisions that Charlie's going to. I commend him for saying I'm not coming. I don't commend him for not telling the principal or saying I forgot. He didn't forget. He was scared to tell him. He knew he was scheduled to go that night, and he was scared to tell him I'm going to the baseball, because he probably didn't want to say, you're going to go do a baseball game instead of doing the budget. You know I can't do the budget. So yes, Jim deserves all the condemnation that this team gave him for not learning how to do a budget and schedule. And Dale, if nothing else, you've got to be grinning from ear to ear that this group immediately saw who the power player was at that school, because Charlie does the budget and the schedule. And I am proud of this group for recognizing that. What you got, Dale?
All right. Now, I'll only throw myself under the bus on this one. I'm not saying this in a boastful way, but sometimes when I was supervising principals, and I won't have Steve chime in on this one. When I would arrive at a school, especially if I was unannounced, I would see people physically run because they know They knew what was coming. It wasn't gonna be good. And one of the things that I would say to principals per this case is, what were you doing that we weren't paying you for that prevented you from doing what we are paying you for? Let me help clarify what your role and responsibilities are. No way a principal should not know how to budget and schedule their school. What are you doing? Those are two most important things you do operationally. How are you not doing that? What were you doing? Let me help define for you what your job is. You have to have those critical conversations, what we used to call come to Jesus meeting with folks. Now, Charlie is, again, to Steve's point, he's got to worry about he can win the battle and lose the war long term when he get another job or he get an opportunity or whatever. And that's what he has to make a decision. But the bigger issue here to me is how in the world could you be a principal in modern times and not know that you've got to schedule your own school, because who you plug in is going to have everything in the world to do in your master schedule with your priorities, your academic initiatives, what teachers get the best results with what kids. We went over that last Thursday night with the folks in 601, our new folks, where we dove deep into EVOS and quintiles and what teachers need to be teaching which kids and all those things. I mean, we start from the very beginning. I mean, this is your job. You've got to know that master schedule and how to put it together. And then you've got to, that budget's got to support it. That's the very essence of what we do. How do you not know how to do that? So this is a principal problem. Charlie's got his own issues here. I can't tell Charlie what to do. He's got to figure that out on his own. For me, I'd probably cut the principal loose. But that's just me. I just, I might sabotage myself, but I'd have to cut him loose. But Charlie's getting his needs met, and so but now Charlie's got to stand up and make a decision. Can't have it both ways, Charlie. You got to stand up. So Charlie needs to stand up. But the principal, this is unacceptable for a principal not to master schedule and budget their school. It's just unacceptable.
Yeah, and it goes that extra step. If you don't understand budget, Dale will tell you a million times that is your one ticket out the door. Yep. The easiest way to get fired is to mismanage budget. And if you're going to depend on somebody else to do it, you are asking for trouble.
Yeah. And that was my reference. A part of that was that reference earlier is when you start getting into grant money and federal funds and trying to mix funds, you better be beyond expert. And you better make sure that whoever you've got doing that at your building that's helping you or at the district level, that they're sure that they know. I wouldn't do it. I'll just tell you, I wouldn't do it. And I know a little bit about budgeting, and I would never attempt that. That's just too high risk for the reward, folks. Probability is just too high that something's going to go wrong with that. And you don't misspend federal money but one time. And then you used to be principal there. So it's too high risk maneuver for me.
Case 27, team 3.
And I'm speaking for my team again. This is case 27 is Bernie burning out.
Mm-hmm.
So Bernie is the principal, and he has established himself as a very effective leader, and scores have soared. Teachers have been recognized for excellence. Parents and community are supportive of the school. And then over time, he's becoming overwhelmed, overworked, and within 5 years of becoming an administrator, he's beginning to put work responsibilities over his family obligations and postponing appointments, and he's squeezing lunch in between meetings or phone calls, and beginning to make rash decisions. Relationships eventually devolve so that relationships with staff and the community are starting to fracture. So what would you do? Our team said we would prioritize and delegate work as necessary, schedule the day, week, or month using an app such as Google Calendar, not micromanaging teachers or staff, establishing standards related to teaching performance, networking with other administrators to establish a work-related support system, making time intentionally for friends and family, finding time to exercise and eat healthy. And once he's rejuvenated, make sure to apologize if needed, and then learn big time stress management techniques. Burning candles at both ends. Ramifications of not doing that: low energy levels, making inconsistent or inappropriate decisions, overreacting to situations, which could lead to the loss of a parent or community support, making students feel not supported, which results in a decline in the academic achievement. It can personally mean alienating friends and family, and then not making time for yourself. All of those things have negative overall ramifications for both your professional and personal life. And the only other thing is your health as well.
All right, so this one is a great case for all of you. You have a stressful life, without any question. If you had nothing else on your life, in your life but your job, you have a stressful life. And then you add the other components, and it starts mounting. So I have a student in the EDLS program whose dissertation is studying how principals handle the stressful role of leading a school. And she's got some interesting theoretical foundation, and I can't remember the author of it now. I have too many dissertations on my plate, but Jennifer's doing it, and it is going to be a terrific study of just, and it's going to be a qualitative thing of just hearing stories of what do you do. And so that's what intrigued me about this case, is that for each of you, you have to make a part of your life being taking care of yourself. And when you have time to do it, I don't know. I can't answer that. But I know that you're trying to cut out pieces of your day for what we term me time, right? And some of you are more successful with that than others, because it just doesn't happen. When Jennifer finishes her dissertation, I'll let all of you know, and you can read it. It's going to be terrific. She's had a little bit of a stressful activity because she just delivered a brand new baby boy last week. And so for some reason, I can't get her to write this week. She's not doing anything with her dissertation this week. It's just really disappointing. But anyway, I rejoice with her and her family for a new child in her life and their lives. But she's going to have a neat dissertation. Friends, we can talk about a lot of things. When we do the devotional thought, I learned a long time ago that for me, it was critical to get up no later than 5 o'clock in the morning and spend quiet time with God for me. And that started my day, and it still starts my day. It was critical. Trying to figure out when you can go for a walk or whatever is also critical. But those other things. So one of the things that I think is also critical is, there comes a point where you don't read educational material at night or whatever. You cut it off, and the rest of it can be brainless activities or whatever. But whatever you do, figure out how to handle the stress in your lives. And I think that's the bottom line with this case study here. And you're seeing a person paying a price because they were good at what they did, but they burned themselves out doing it. And nobody wins with that. Anybody have anything else? Dale, got anything on that one?
Just got to be intentional. Just like we've talked about, kind of the running theme of the night is you've got to be intentional with your time and what you spend your time doing. You've got to be self-aware. This job can become all-consuming. You can think you're doing good things and your days just disappear and you don't know where the time went. And are you really doing the things that you're supposed to be doing? And are you not only for your school, but for yourself? Just got to be intentional.
All right, we got 3 more to do. We're going to get through them. Case 30. Team 1.
That would be me. So this case study is the Good Parents Association president. And with this one, we have Miss Hammond, who is the PTA president, and she does a lot to support the schools. She goes on field trips just to be an extra chaperone with different grade levels. She'll laminate, she'll do playground duty, she'll do extra lunch duty. She will get fundraisers going. She is the all-around awesome PTA president. She's proactive. She's a go-between or liaison for the parent group and the principal. So she speaks with them to tell any problems that are happening. And then the principal can address it with the teachers. And she hosts a variety of PTA meetings where she has outside speakers. So she is like your star PTA president. And so what she does is in here, she invites the principals, or not the principals, the teachers to come to a meeting. And during this meeting, she's having a speaker talk about nutrition. And the speaker does their part. And there's a moment that gets tense because the parents speak up in this meeting where there's teachers and the principal, and they say, those teachers let the children eat whatever they want. And so the teachers get angry because they're the confrontation is coming. And Darlene, our PTA president, she can feel this, and she stands up and says to the speaker, can you add to this? Again, she's that proactive liaison, that positive light for the school. And the speaker gives the parents some ideas for how they can keep a healthy snack for the kids and send their own snack. So as I read this, I was thinking, what in the world? There's not an issue here. This is a star person. Well, the issue is, how do we replace her? Because it's an elected position. So you have this vital PTA president that's elected yearly. And we need to build other supportive parents like this without stepping over bounds, because we cannot influence a PTA and we cannot pick and choose. It's an elected position. Now, we can say, hey, why don't you put your name on the ballot? We can recommend, but you can't do anything else. So what would I do? I would ask her, is there some type of manual that helps future PTAs? Because with how she is, she might put something together for you. And just kind of say, she can also seek out people to have them put their name on the ballot. Again, you can't impact it. The teachers can do that. And then ramifications of this. So a ramification is that, one, we have to tread lightly. If we can elect the parents, I should say, not we, because we can't, positive parents, then our school runs smoothly. As Ms. Hammond's that great liaison. That's what we have currently.
But if we elect that negative parent, it becomes hurtful for the school and morale can go down. There's no communication and there might be that uproar that can't be controlled. So that is Miss Hammond.
All right, has anybody ever been in a school where there's a Miss Hammond? Anybody experienced one?
When I was in K through 5, just as a student, we had a whole lot of parents like that. Yeah, we did.
Is there a problem? Is it a problem that Miss Hammond is like that? I mean, she does so many good things. Is it a problem?
It could be a delegation problem because we need, it sounds like Miss Hammond is a solo person. So could she be kind of that unknowingly the top down person because she's trying to constantly battle? It's not that direct, you'll do this, but she is giving that forewarning, if that makes sense. Because she's by herself where you're not creating a pool of people that you can depend on.
The way this case study reads is as if she's the person who's the face of the school.
Yeah.
Not the principal.
That's how it read to me too, Elena. I just kind of sat there and said, I believe Miss Hammond's got just a little bit too much authority here. I mean, I want her support, but she's not going to be the one to bring in the teacher to smooth, or the speaker to smooth out the issues here or whatever. I really struggled with that. And there's, I don't know. It's just, now again, I was a secondary principal, so PTOs weren't as active as they are perhaps some elementary schools, but she was, I think Miss Hammond would, I don't know. I think she would be one of those that could also talk about the principal who needed to get out of the office and not be caught. I mean, she'd probably be the one who come in and, oh, I got another idea for you, blah, 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 and then you'd be stuck again. So you want to nurture the relationship, but you also, I love what you said. We got to develop others. Miss Hammond's not going to be there after her kids leave. She's going to go on with her kids, I'm sure. And so we've got all those things to take in consideration here. And I would worry that she had that much power. Dale, what you got on Miss Hammond? Well, by the way, I know one of the things he's going to say is never forget the PTO may be a parent-teacher organization, but you are the principal. And if they go down the wrong track, you're going down the track with them.
While you can delegate the activity, this is from the law, you cannot delegate the responsibility. Let me say that again. While you can delegate the activity, you cannot delegate the responsibility. What that is under is fiscal accountability, is where that's under, but it cuts across all areas of school administration. So what it means is, and this is one of your activities to learn about fundraising in your building. Too many principals have this notion, but I'll just turn that over to the PTA. I've got a lady like this and she'll run it and I won't have to worry about it. That is not true. There's an article in the paper every day where PTA embezzled the money, or the people didn't, or the fruit was rotten, or they didn't get, Eastern North Carolina, they sold raffle tickets for a pig picking, and they told the fellow that won the raffle that the pig died and gave him his $1 back. I mean, these are all things that have happened. PTAs do. You're responsible for all of that, good, bad, or indifferent. This person has way too much of your future in their hands. This cannot be. You are playing with fire here, folks. You cannot do this. You cannot allow one person to run your school, because whatever the outcome is, you're responsible for it. If it goes bad, it's just. Now this is a hot point of debate over an unemployment line, because that's where you're going to be. she can just move on, but you can't. You got to always remember that. Parents are a good thing, but and I have been an elementary principal for 5 years. I was. And I can tell you they are a double-edged sword, and mostly a sword. But you've got to be in charge. You can't let them be, because they don't have any of the responsibility that you have. So always remember that.
All right, case 39.
Alrighty, I'm gonna present my screen. I'm in my car, so
yeah, South Met kicked Valine out. They kicked her out.
So, Valine, do you need me to present the screen?
Yes, go ahead and present it, and then I'll just speak on it. Alrighty, so I summarized case 39 in, hold on. Let me put my window up, sorry. Yes, I summarized case 39 with this cartoon. In a nutshell, the case is speaking about state and federal policies with school progress, yearly progress. So here we have Principal Earl, and he has been notified based on data that his scores are dropping, his student scores are dropping. The students, mark you, they're not technically failing yet, but the scores are going down, and it's alarming, especially for the minorities. So he's now talking with a group of faculty about what should we do, what should they do. And one of the things that came out was that the federal and state government policies on testing and accountability states that schools must, and I repeat, must demonstrate yearly progress. So here is Principal Earl. As you can see, he is alarmed, he's scared, he's nervous, because this can not only affect him, but the school might be closed, teachers might be transferred. So he is nervous as to what is happening to the test scores, especially for the minorities. So while having this conversation with the faculty, these are what some of the responses that he received. Millie said, let's just teach to the test. That's what we do best. Let's teach to the test. Once the scores are up, our school will be okay. And then Phyllis is saying, if we don't fix their social emotional life, then how are we going to fix their scores? John's response was, if the community helped us, then the student scores will be up. If parents are helping students when they go home, then the scores will go up. Frank's approach is, just trust the process. Frank is based on the scenario. I felt like Frank was a bit close to her, like they were, he might have been the one that created the schedule or the budget based on how he, in the scenario, said he leaned over and spoke to Earl. So he was a close ally of Earl, and he was saying, we have seen this before. They'll bounce back. We have high teacher turnover, so let's blame the high teacher turnover and all the other problems. Don't blame the teachers. Let's blame everybody else and everything else. So going through, these are some of the possible solutions that were highlighted. Earl, as the principal, have the authority to enact several measures. And as principal, you have to step up. When the ship is going down, you have to stand out and lead. And you have to lead from the front. One of the ways is to engage all teachers in more discussion about the problem, share the research on the achievement gap with the staff. The principal have to get all teachers on the bus, on board, to believe that the school can be successful. Because if the teachers don't believe that the school can be successful, then we're in for trouble. The hiring part of it is super important. If you are not hiring quality staff, you're not going to get quality work. So the principal, Earl has to look into the hiring staff. What is happening there? What are the experiences of these people who are being hired? So yes, we have this high turnover rate, but what is happening? What kind of people are we hiring at our school? PDs are important as well. If the teachers aren't trained, they might not know what to do to help these students to be successful. Teachers have to be included, especially the ones that have opposing views. Believe it or not, your strongest opposer might have the solution that you can use to bridge the gap. Get the unqualified qualified. There's no going around that. And I hope you notice that I have that part in bold. Get the unqualified teachers qualified. That's a must as a principal. And if they are not open to be qualified, as Dr. Lamb said last week, then you have to give them the boot. Kindly and politely ask them to step aside so we can get the qualified in the business. And then test results, we all speak of test results because that's really what shows the growth. But that should not be the only focus as a principal, as a staff. That should be the effect of the hard work that was done. So if we do the hard work on the back end, then the results will grow. And all of this is linked to the No Child Left Behind legislature that must be upheld by all schools. And that's it in a wrap.
Steve, you're muted again.
I don't know how I did that. This is one of the things we've talked about in here. We are judged by our achievement scores, whether we like it or not. So it, you know, the argument that many of us would like to say, well, I wish they could see how we're helping kids grow in other ways besides academically. Our job is to let them achieve academically. That's the bottom line. That's what we are judged on. It's not to say we don't want to develop them with social emotional skills and maturing and everything else. But we are judged on academic performance. That is the bottom line. And Bailey made it very clear with her recommendation as well. The one thing that probably is a little bit problematic with this suggestion list is hire teachers with strong content and experiences in delivering robust instructions. Those people are not real plentiful out there right now. And so we're not developing them in other ways. So we're going to have to figure out how to use PD to develop them. And again, we'll have to figure that out. Just going to have to do better with that. But Dale, you got anything with this?
I got two quick things. And do we have another one behind this?
Yeah, I got one more.
So, well, I won't show you the documents then. So I have two documents that I normally show at this time. One of them is what I call MTSS for teachers. It speaks to Valeen's point. You got to grow your own. You got to make your unqualified qualified. My professional growth plan that I work off of, our second evidence, the APTEL, the one that I told you in between the first one you did and the third one that you do for me, is we have our folks develop a professional growth plan. Mine is called MTSS for teachers. And I go step by step what you got to do to try to grow those folks. That's number one. And number two is you got to dig down in your EVOS data. We did this last Thursday night, as I said, with our new group, and we showed Dr. Robin Hamilton's principal at Masonboro, which was Parsley, that's in Wilmington, very high growth school, upper end school, and then of course Jamal was there, Crawford. He's principal last year at Kirkman Park and High Point, high growth school, 3.5, the biggest in the Triad area. But what they do is they get the teachers that perform best with different quintiles or different subgroups of students, but working with them right now. But then they work to grow them. You got to do both. But you can't say, well, you know, you've been here forever. I'm going to let you continue teaching these kids because that's what you want to do. And we'll hope that you grow. No, we make the move. We put the teachers with the kids that we get the most bang for our buck right now. And then we work on, if you want to teach that group, then let's work to get you better. You know, the unqualified to be qualified. You got to do both. You've got to organize your master schedule around, I'm going to put these teachers with these kids because they get the best results. But I'm also going to work that PD plan, my MTSS plan for teachers, where I'm trying to grow them where they need to be. because I'm telling you, we're about to the point like I was in 1995, where when I took over a takeover school that had 37 vacancies the day that I walked in, and I was out on Central Avenue in Charlotte flagging down cars asking people, can you teach school? We're about to that place again now. It's not, can we find qualified people? Can we find anybody? You got to grow your own. It's got to be both, folks. You got to put people where they get the best results, and you got to be working on growing your own. If you're not growing your own, you're not going to make it. We just don't have enough quality people showing up. Thank you.
All right. So I'm cognizant of the time at 7:55. We may go a couple minutes over. Let's do 40 to finish up. And here we go.
You're muted, Jessica.
Thank you. I said, so yes, the title of Case 40 is a tug of conscience. And a lot of the same issues that Valine told us about in Case 39 goes right along with Case 40. We have a teacher. Okay, I'll go back to the picture. But we have a principal who's faced with either like taking care of the social-emotional needs of her students or improving test scores. In this case, the social-emotional needs of the students is very important because the school is like the pillar of the community. The community is faced with violence, unemployment, dysfunction, and really the school is what gives the community hope. So that's where it comes in. She, what do I do? Do I focus on the test scores or do I focus on what the community really needs? If not, if she focuses on only the needs of the students, then she's faced with the government takeover. And I found this picture and I can imagine that a lot of the parents and students at the school would take the same stance as the people in the picture. It's something that they don't want. Right now, as far as they, from their perspective, right now, the school is taking care of their needs, but not needs as far as like the state's proficiency standards. All right, so what will I do? Well, definitely in this situation, something has to be done to make sure that the school is in place to serve the community. So one thing I would do is host community or curriculum nights so that like parents can be informed about how important it, like, yes, the school is there to meet like the needs of the family, but also, the school's there to educate too. So bring that back with curriculum nights. We would get the teachers involved by sending home reports so that parents are informed about their child's progress, and even the students, offering them rewards for high academic achievement, like just get them excited about it. So the top ramification, like if the teachers, the students, and the parents, if they don't buy into it, then eventually the school will be taken over by the state. And, it might not be like the same friendly environment that they're used to. This can happen, like, once again, as a result of the community not being willing to adapt, teachers not prioritizing the students' academic achievement, prioritizing it along, not above it, but just putting it right along with the social emotional needs, and the students not seeing the value in high academic achievement and growth.
All right, is that it?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Jessica.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this one's, this one kind of came down to the question of which is more important, loving the child or teaching the child. And I know we all want to say, well, you can do both. and you can. The challenge of this school and so many of the schools that you're in, which maybe every school around, is this idea of you know, the social emotional piece. I stood in front of our 730 students in EDLS, and I just said to the whole group, we've got the largest group of new students we've ever had at EDLS, and I said, friends, you need to find a topic that you're passionate about for your dissertation. But I want to tell you right now, none of you can do social emotional work. None. I'm sick of it. We're not doing it anymore. There are other things to study because that's the new buzzword. And I'm not saying that there are not important components to that, but friends, we are in the business of teaching and learning. We keep talking about that. So there is a way to love, but not at the expense of teaching. And Dale and I talk about our own personalities, and it's certainly a fault of mine. But I try to tell our students, I care about every one of you, and I love every one of you. But if your writing is not what it needs to be, if your research skills are not what they need to be, I don't know how you sugarcoat that. You just need to fix it, and I'm gonna try to make that point as concisely as I can. So because I think that's my job. So it comes down to which is more important, teaching or loving. I think we're going to have to teach them if they're going to be successful going forward in their lives. Dale, what you got?
I've got a poll that everybody is answering. And my question on the poll to kind of close the evening is, so I have posited the question here, can schools give students self-esteem? And so I have 7 that have answered yes. And I don't even know which 7 it is. If you can stop your share, we won't get into that. And so on this pop quiz, the answer is no. We could give students the opportunity to earn self-esteem through academic achievement, but we just can't give you self-esteem that you ought to feel good about yourself just because you're yourself. That's not the business we're in. We can grow self-esteem in children through academic achievement, through accomplishment. We can provide them opportunities to do that, but we're not running a daycare here, folks. Test scores matter. And so we want to build that self-esteem, that confidence, that social emotional piece through academic achievement, not in lieu of academic achievement. That's the notion here. We think that social emotional is very important, but only as a byproduct of academic achievement, because that's what we get paid to do. Make a good number go up or a bad number go down, period. Love you, mean it.
Yeah. To all of you, thank you for sharing on the case studies, and it's always fun to hear your thoughts with it. Your answers were just spot on and terrific, and Dale and I talk about y'all, and we will talk about y'all again tomorrow morning, and enjoy every minute of it. You are a remarkable group of people. To Sarah and Shante and Baleen, it's nice to see y'all in cars where it's good and dark outside. And, we started this class, it was still daylight when we got out, but now it's dark. So it's getting darker and darker earlier and earlier. For all of you, task 4 is due Monday if you're able to get to it. And task 5 is a relatively easy task. And I would like us as a group set as a goal that we'll spend 30 minutes to an hour on Saturday morning when we're together face to face on the 1st of October, and making sure that you're comfortable in everything you've done and submitting your work to TaskStream so that it is done and you are through with this course, the 601 portion of it. And now if you don't get that, there's certainly no penalty to it. I know a lot of you have a lot on your plate, but if for those of you who can, it would be fun just to say, I'm done with this portion of it. And then on Sunday, you'll start 603 and not have anything lingering. For all of you, you've gotten emails from me, and it's in the syllabus. My cell number is readily accessible. I don't have all of your numbers. In fact, I don't have many of your numbers. So when you call, I'm probably not gonna answer it because I will not recognize your call. And a lot of people try to sell me life insurance, car insurance, whatever, liability coverage, everything else. All of you are familiar with that. So it would probably be easiest if you have a question for me, either email, because I do get that regularly, or text me and I will call you right back. And so with that, if nobody has anything, I know we went 5 minutes over. Blessings, everybody. Have a great night and week. We will not be together next Tuesday. We are not. You got a Tuesday off. How about that? And then, but Saturday a week, we can't wait to see you. There will be food for breakfast. I'll have the biscuits. They'll have some other stuff. So you don't have to eat breakfast before you come if you like unhealthy stuff. We'll have plenty of unhealthy food. And we'll have a good time together doing Maxwell and finishing up your evidence. All right, we done? Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night.